Hello, my name is Candace Hinkston. Welcome to this presentation for GPH 734 Obesity Epidemiology. Today, I will be discussing my study results of obesity and the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages in New York State. Despite New York State ranking number 45 in the nation for obesity at 25.7% for the adult population, it is an increase of 16.4% in the last 30 years. One of the factors related to this increase is the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages. Since the implementation of policy efforts in the last 10 years to reduce sugar-sweetened beverage consumption in the state, there have been noticeable decreases among almost every demographic, including the most vulnerable populations of Blacks, Hispanics, lower-income individuals, youth, and adolescents. However, with a current range of daily consumption among New York counties from 16 to 37%, as seen in the depiction on the right, the increased need for preventative efforts continues. For this study, the secondary analysis of existing behavioral risk factor surveillance system data from 2016 was performed. The data was originally collected via a cross-sectional telephone survey of the national population and is used to assess health behaviors and conditions in the general population. The analysis of variables from BRFSS commenced with the cleaning of data to create a subsample of New York survey respondents. Body mass index was the outcome of interest, and sugar-sweetened beverages was the primary exposure variable. Relevant covariates included sex, age, ethnicity, race, education, income, physical activity, history of cardiovascular disease, and diabetes diagnosis. Once variables were recoded, the use of complex survey weighting was applied to create complete case data analysis. Next, a Cree-regression on primary variables was completed, followed by a multivariate weighted and adjusted regression to regress body mass index on sugar-sweetened beverages. Finally, linear regression assumptions were checked using a component plus residual plot, standard residual plot, and quantile-quantile plot. The results of these plots are displayed in graphs here, and no assumption violations were found. Descriptive statistics were then created to display the sample results by BMI status, which are shown in the results section. On the right, Table 1 shows a descriptive analysis of participants by weight status. In regard to sugar-sweetened beverage consumption, overall 32% of respondents reported not drinking these types of drinks at all, while 28% reported drinking 1 to 7 drinks per week. Respondents in the obese category of BMI reported the highest consumption of drinks per week in the greater than 7 drinks per week category. Demographically, the majority of respondents were white, comprising 72% of the sample size, with 17% of overall population identifying as Black. The largest percentage of the Black population by BMI reported being overweight and obese. Additionally, 35% of respondents reported being college graduates, but only 27% of obese respondents reported having a college degree. Health factors included 11% lower physical activity in obese respondents than normal weight BMI respondents, and the diagnosis of diabetes was the widest ranging health-related risk factor when comparing BMI categories, with normal at 4%, overweight at 10%, and obese at 18%. Linear regression results were compiled into Table 2 to represent the association of BMI with sugar-sweetened beverage consumption in both unadjusted and adjusted models. For sugar-sweetened beverages, there was no significance in the comparison of 1 to 7 drinks per week based on BMI category. However, there was a significant association in the 0 to 1 drinks per week and the greater than 7 drinks per week categories, which were both associated with increased BMI units. Demographics revealed lower BMI associations for females, non-Hispanics, and college graduates. There was also a positive association of age and BMI, but no significant associations with income. Health factors indicated that being diagnosed with diabetes increased the units of BMI by 2.40, which was the greatest increase for health-related factors measured in this study. There was also evidence of increased BMI based on a reduction in physical activity of 0.73 units. Results of the study provide evidence to support the association of BMI and sugar-sweetened beverages. The covariates proved to be significant confounders, making necessary adjustments essential for preventing a misrepresentation of associations. Due to the positive associations with drinks per week, it seems that the avoidance of sugar-sweetened beverages could lessen the risk for overweight and obesity, but further long-term research of targeted populations is needed. Based on the social ecological model of change, proposed interventions to reduce sugar-sweetened beverage consumption and its role in the development of overweight and obesity involves a policy-based intervention to include the implementation of soda excise tax and mandatory warning labels on high sugar-sweetened beverages. New York State has already implemented a range of very successful campaigns to combat the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages and has plans in place for community intervention to reduce and replace higher sugar-sweetened beverages with alternatives in cafeterias and vending machines across the state. There are also societal interventions which include public service announcements on the association of sugar-sweetened beverages and BMI. The intervention that's lacking in New York State is a legislative action to tax and categorize highly sweetened beverages as unhealthy for general consumption. Upon this classification and implementation of policy changes, a cohort study of Bronx, New York's residents, which have the highest inner-city consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages in the state, should be conducted to understand the long-term effects of policy changes on the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages and changes to obesity. Policy developments by way of implementation of a soda tax in New York State could be an effective intervention for limiting spending on these sugar-sweetened beverages, as well as changing the cultural perspective of such drinks. Soda tax legislation has been established in several cities around the United States, including Boulder, Colorado, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Seattle, Washington, and the California cities of Albany, Berkeley, Oakland, and San Francisco. A 3-year study of Berkeley, California residents from 2019 showed a 50% reduction in sugary drink consumption for its residents after soda tax regulation. In 2017, the Philadelphia soda tax was implemented, and in 2019, a study conducted on the association of beverage tax on sugar-sweetened beverages and changes in sales in urban locations found a 38% decrease in the city's sales after adjusting for border state sales increases. The soda tax included the addition of a 1.5 cent per ounce excise tax, which increased prices by 65 cents to $1.56, depending on the original price and location. Additionally, the requirement for warning labels on high sugar-sweetened beverages could impact the sales of drinks similar to the soda tax and the Surgeon General warnings on cigarettes. Senate Bill 437 was developed by California to accomplish this and has gained traction, passing each stage of voting as of June 2019. This is an imperative part of this policy intervention, as sugar-sweetened beverages are often targeted to the populations mentioned as being the most vulnerable for consumption. With the continuous improvement to current New York programs, including Drink Water and Pouring on Pounds campaigns, a strong media presence is established to influence behavior change and improve health literacy. But implementation of preemptive legislation to help combat obesity and sugar-sweetened beverage consumption is another way to target the population and improve the quality of life of all New York residents. Thank you for watching.